This session, Brother Nia Imara. Brother Imara is the head of the National Association of Black Supplementary Schools. This is a resource information and advice center for supplementary school aimed at Black children and parents in the United Kingdom. NABSS grew out of the Black education movement and Black parent movement, which has been active since the late 60s to secure improvement in the education of Black children. Brother Nia always wants his children to do far better than himself, as he severely underachieved in school due to lack of home encouragement, low self-esteem, and cultural identity confusion. Brother Nia answered a call for an assistant in South London, in a South London Saturday school from a local community radio station. While helping there, he learned about the importance of extra help on cultural education. When he became a father, his children started the same supplementary school from the age of 4, and they excel brilliantly. When his daughter started year 1, she was 18 months ahead of the rest of her peers. And when his son started at reception, he was 12 months ahead of the rest of his peers. As Brother Nia spoke to other parents around him to find out why their children weren't attending supplementary school, the vast response was that they could not find any in their area. Brother Nia spoke to Professor Gus John about what happened to the NASS, National Association of Supplementary Schools, which fell apart after just 3 years, and this was due to funding, he discovered. He decided to find a solution to that problem and created a website and directory dedicated to the promotion of African heritage supplementary education around the country. The rapper and social activist Akela recounted going to Saturday school as a child in the 1980s in his book Natives, and credited the extra education in Black history with helping to shape a positive identity for him as a teenager. Brother Nia has stated that it is no secret that the education system is failing Black children, and there is little or no focus on Black history and heritage. We are really eager to hear what he has to say and will take questions at the end. Thank you, Brother Nia.
Hi, greetings everybody. This discussion is decolonization of the curriculum. Is there a problem with what we teach? And when we're talking about decolonization, we need to understand what decolonize means, which is to break away, to leave, to be independent. Do we really want to do that? Can we do that? Are we brave enough to do that? Are we brave enough to move away and be independent? Which is what I feel we need to do. Because since 2005, I've been trying to set up independent African heritage schools, because we are constantly begging a racist institution to feed us knowledge about ourselves, to empower ourselves. I don't believe they're going to do that. They will not do that. They're far happy with the system as it is. They're far happy to stay in power and teach us what is necessary for us to be a workforce. We're not even supposed to be going to universities. Universities is universe, one way of teaching. They had no intention of having us going to universities. But we move forward with that. But that is one way of teaching, but we're still begging them to teach us about us, which is why I focus on our own schools and teaching ourselves about ourselves. When they colonize us, to colonize is to send settlers amongst what is already established. So we've come into what is already established as a one-way system of teaching poor, working class white people, Caucasian people, to be a workforce. That's what this education system is built on creating a workforce for the rich. Hence why we have a 6-week summer holiday for working class children to go into the farms and pick fruit. That's why we have a 6-week holiday. That's what it's for. And we still have that now. So we have to move away and teach our own. I mean, Subhadra said that we are bad at teaching about race. Now, we've been teaching about race in the African heritage community since the 60s, but people just don't want to listen. It seems that a lot of people are very comfortable living within a racist system, purely because a lot of them don't understand how racism works, how it's governed. So if you don't understand how it works, you have no idea on how to combat it. Racism controls the areas of people's activity, whether it's race, whether it's war, gender, law, politics, entertainment, communication, all these areas that we interact with each other. The racist system controls it. And a lot of the time they control what we listen to and what we hear. Since I used to go to attend these conferences by Diane Abbott, London Schools and the Black Child, they were in the mid-2000s. And there was about 2,000 people attended those conferences in the Elizabeth II Conference Centre in Victoria. I would say at least half, at least 1,000 were African heritage teachers. And in 2005, I was part of a group that we was going to set up our own independent African heritage school in Wembley. I myself brought 1,000 leaflets to that conference and gave them all out. And I said, look, we're going to have a meeting about setting up our own school to decolonize ourselves and come away and set up our own system and our own education that benefits us. And from that conference of 2,000 people, 0 turned up. 0. Now, are we just frightened to do things for ourselves? So a lot of teachers and academics are in the system trying to make changes, and some, like you said, a lot are uncomfortable with trying to do these changes. But how long are we going to keep on feeling uncomfortable? How long has this has been going on since the 60s? Hence why we had supplementary schools in the first place, because the parents and children were going to schools and seeing, they're not seeing themselves in the picture. They're not learning things, and also we're putting the lower classes, dehumanized us by putting us in the lower classes. Hence why we had our own supplementary schools, started up in somebody's lounge, started off in church halls and community centres, to teach our children to, the other side to slavery. Our history does not start with slavery. And we mentioned a timeline out by The Guardian, and I've got the original African heritage history timeline done by Paul Obinna, which I've got. This is like, oh my God, this is like 6 foot long. And guess how long this is? Slavery is just this section. This little section is slavery, and the rest of this, all of this, is the rest of African history. You see how long this is? Done by Paul Obinna in the early 2000s. Slavery is just this section, and the rest of this is the rest of African history around the world. So we can't keep on focusing on slavery. And also, if you want to talk about slavery, talk about the how we African people, freed ourselves, the Haiti Revolution, how we freed ourselves. Talk about, how slave owners were paid to end slavery. It wasn't down to, individuals there. They were paid to stop slavery. And also because it became uneconomical, because the amount of slavery revolts that was going on, it was uneconomical. Jamaica alone had 250 slave revolts. That's just Jamaica. We're not even talking about America. We're not even talking about Brazil. We're not even talking about what happened on the African continent itself. So when we're talking about talking about African history all year round, we have Tony Warner. He does Black History walks all year round. Even now he's doing a cruise along the Thames, dealing with African heritage in London. And he does a coach trip that goes around the city of London all year round. We've got Robin Walker. He's written a fantastic book called When We Ruled. It's way beyond slavery. Goes way beyond slavery. When We Ruled, written by Robin Walker, and numerous books written by Robin Walker. We've got Steve Martin, fantastic historian we've got in this country. We like to focus a lot on Africans in America. We've got some fantastic people in the UK. And if we want to decolonize the British curriculum, we need to involve people like this in the UK. And also, yeah, like I said, I promote supplementary schools because the results that are coming out from the supplementary schools is absolutely fantastic. And it's going to be, so it's just a job for me to try and calculate the fantasticness that's coming out of it. I mean, like Carla said, going to a supplementary school and just changing the way you think about yourself and the rest of the world around you, it just absolutely changes your mind. My daughter learned about Mary Seacole long before it became on the curriculum. Long before it was on the curriculum. She went to the in a classroom. She's in reception. The teacher was talking about Florence Nightingale. She puts her hand and says, "Miss, it wasn't Florence Nightingale who was doing all the work. It was Mary Seacole." The teacher said, "Who's Mary Seacole?" She was able to teach the whole class about Mary Seacole at the age of 6. When she went to the British Museum, they saw the hieroglyphics at the British Museum. She puts her hand up. She says, "Miss, I know what the hieroglyphics mean." The teacher didn't believe her, turned her back on her. She says, Miss, I know what the hieroglyphics mean." She turns around and says, she said, "Listen, young lady, if you think you're smart, come and teach our class." And she did, because she learned how to write a name in hieroglyphics at a Pan-African Saturday school at the age of 5 years old. There was a 5-year-old boy came into a school that I was teaching at, which is the Nubian African Foundation School, which is now based in Wandsworth. They're still going after what 30 years. They're still going. This boy was 5 years old, and he had been excluded from 5 nurseries at the age of 5. And the father said that the last nursery said that this boy is unteachable. Now, we taught that boy how to write his name in hieroglyphics. We taught that boy algebra. We taught that boy, a 5-year-old boy, how to do algebra. They don't touch that until year 7. Correct me if I'm wrong. We've got children learning these things at such a young age. And in 2015, in 1 year, 2015, I had 5 parents complaining to me saying the school had told them to stop bringing their children to Saturday schools because they're learning too much too quick. Now I said to the teacher, mention a solicitor, get your children moved up a year, which, correct me if I'm wrong, it is legal to do so in this country. But schools don't like to do it. These children were way ahead of everybody else. And I noticed it with my own daughter. She was 18 months ahead of everybody else. But they used my daughter as a supply teacher and used her to help other students that were struggling. You know, fair enough, she was helping other students, but her development wasn't able to go any forward. So if we want to decolonize the curriculum, for me, we need to move away. And for me, it's to set up our own Pan-African schools, our own African heritage schools, and teach our own children from our own perspective. That's the way I believe is the way forward.
Thank you so much, Brother Nia. You've made some very valid points, and you've also shared some useful resources, which I'm sure we'll share with everyone later. There is a few questions for you in the question and answer. How can Black educators work more closely with the community group in this work to decolonize the curriculum?
One thing I'd like to say is that we have a lot of African heritage academics, but they keep the research that they do to themselves. They have meetings amongst themselves in places that, you know, grassroots people don't go to, or even invited to. I've been invited to a few of these groups, and it's, you know, it's academics and researchers and professors, but they don't communicate with grassroots people. They don't communicate with supplementary schools. They keep it very elitist. So cut out the eliteness of this research that you do and the reports that you write, and share it with grassroots.
Okay. And what about teachers in school? How can they become more involved with the community?
Like I say, I mean, it's difficult when they're in the school system and they, like you said, they find it uncomfortable, or they just meet blatant barriers where they are. So they can get involved with the curriculum for supplementary schools. A lot of teachers do teach on the Saturday, but you know, that is your free time, that is your choice. But just pass information that you can to other organizations that are involved in education outside the school system. Just pass on any information you can, but do keep on doing the campaigns, but do not do it isolated. I've come across so many teachers that are doing it isolated, even within their own school. Maybe because other African heritage teachers are not on their path or too frightened, but do seek out other teachers in your profession who've got the same mindset of you, that you can share the same resources, and maybe get other teachers to contact your school and help you with your own campaign, but do not do it isolated. It's very uncomfortable for everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm now, because we've got a bit more time left, I'm now going to take some more questions from the question box, and I'll now refer the questions to all the three panel members. So that discussion, that question.
Could I just quickly add just a few more resources that are available all year round?
Thank you.
We've got Professor Kenda Andrew. He's got the first accredited Black History course. It's been going since 2016. That's all year round. We've got Black History Studies, do courses all year round, and trips to Egypt. Like I've mentioned, Tony Warner, Black History Walks. We've got Robin Walker, Steve Martin, and the Paul Obinna timeline, which is fantastic. Rumor is he's going to be doing a new one, but you know, contact Paul Obinna if you can, and just get him to get that timeline out, because it's absolutely fantastic. My one is the original one from mid 2000s when I got it. So we can get that timeline out into classrooms, and anyone can look at it at any time.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you to all of our speakers. I think this has been an invaluable contribution, and you know, as teachers, no matter what subject you teach, there's always ways that we can actually infuse Black history into our daily lessons. The same way we're sort of embedding numeracy, I think we need to embed also Black history. And thank you so much for this session.
Well done, Brother Nia. Very inspirational.
Thank you.
Very passionate.
I'm passionate about making a difference, and the difference is what we actually do on the ground. Now we can write as many reports as we want.
Just to remind you, you are going live, so can you please take the conversation off?
It's not going to be bad, honest.
Oh, can we not carry on talking?
I've just paused the recording, so if you'd like to carry on the conversation, please do.
Okay.
It's good for the people that are still there in the chat room. We still like to hear certain things. But yeah,
It's difficult, I find. I used to go to Saturday school because I grew up in Birmingham, and the Saturday school that I used to go to was run by a young activist called Beanie Brown.
Yes, I know Beanie Brown very well. 104 Road.
Yeah. So I used to go there every summer, every Saturday. So we learned a lot there, and then it's just kind of like carried it on throughout my life that I've got an inquisitive mind, so I will look outside of the box. But because some people have not had that possibility, that option open to them, they don't explore as much as I think they could do. And I think also where you talk about the lack of funding, it's the publicity as well, because some of these things pass us by, or they come up really late, and then you think, oh, I wanted to go to that, but it's too late for us to attend because the advertising is just not there.
You're absolutely right, which is where I came in to doing NABSS in 2007. I put the Saturday schools on the website because a lot of them didn't have websites and didn't do social media back in 2007, which is why I did a regionalized directory of African heritage supplementary schools. So they were not advertising themselves. The one I was going to in Kilburn, the Imhotep School of Knowledge, did not advertise. So when the current cohort reached an age of leaving, there wasn't a new cohort coming through because there's no advertising to bring in another a younger age group. And a lot of supplementary schools then didn't have websites, hence why I put them on my website. But the thing now we have social media. Now we have a plethora of agencies that we share information with. People are still not sharing the information, because I literally get 5 and 6 phone calls every day, whether it's regarding setting up a Saturday school, wanting to find a Saturday school or home education, or whatever. And when I speak to the people that call me, we end up knowing the same people. But that person did not share the information that Brother Nia has got a whole network of Saturday schools on a website. Didn't mention it.
There's a new one they're looking to set up in Hillingdon in London, which they're looking to do taster sessions and that. What I'll do is I'll get the organisers to get in touch with you to see whether or not they want to be put onto the website. But they're looking to start one up very soon.
Yeah, that'd be great because there's people in that area looking for Saturday schools. I've been in touch with a brother called Lord MacMensa in Scotland. When I first spoke to him last year, he already set up an African Saturday school called the Kwame Nkrumah Heritage Academy in Glasgow, and he said he was about to open another one in Edinburgh. Spoke to him this year. I got an interview with him on YouTube. So I spoke to him this year. He opened one in Glasgow, Edinburgh, and Aberdeen. So he's got 3 Pan-African supplementary schools in Scotland. But when I spoke to him further, he ends up having like 17 around the world. He's got Denmark, Ireland, USA. You know what I mean? He's got them all over the place in countries you don't even think about, even Australia. And as it happened, 3 days after that conversation, a lady rang me from Australia looking for a Pan-African Saturday school. And I was able to direct her to the one they've got there already.
See, this is what I'm saying. I mean, the gentleman that you just spoken about, I have no idea who he is, but they exist. I mean, I know who Kwame Nkrumah is because I watched the documentary and I was like, yeah, I'm not kind of feeling the way that they slanted the documentary. Let me go and learn more about who Kwame was, and then realize that because he was talking about uniting the African states, you know, he was kind of like, they got rid of him in ways which were not good. Because whenever we talk about unity, we tend to get, there seem to be diverse forces that come along and disintegrate the idea. But yeah, the more schools that we can get involved, and I mean, talking about where we all come from and where this history has brought us to and where we can go forward with it, I think is something that's much needed.
And the fantastic thing about these supplementary schools is, you know, it's not just academics, because they deal with life skills, business, entrepreneurship, you know, budgeting and things. It's just not just around A, B, and C. So it's across the life skill spectrum, involving cooking and sports. But one of the best things I love about these supplementary schools is that not all of them necessarily have a separate African history study course, because they incorporate African history within science, within maths, within English, because the influence of Africa, like I said, like I showed you from that timeline, goes beyond the pyramids.
Yeah.
So you know, how can you talk about science and maths and not mention Imhotep? If he was Caucasian, he would have had his own statue. He would have been mentioned in every lesson.
But remember, they think that Imhotep is the villain from the Mummy films.
Well, that is how they demonize our ancestors. That's how they demonize them. Because I mean, look at Cleopatra. Elizabeth Taylor played her. Cleopatra was a dark-skinned African woman.